The following podcast is an RMG Media production.
Welcome to the Renaissance Podcast, a podcast for Renaissance women
and men
who want to create a modern-day Renaissance in their life and business.
We interview some of the most successful entrepreneurs and share their unique stories.
Are you ready to create your Renaissance? Okay, well, I want to start the show with something on your website that I loved. And it really stood out to me, but just, it's like your little, the little things about you. And it says problem solver, networker, empathizer, fascinated by human behavior and family dynamics, mother, and Ella Fitzgerald fan. And you don't know this about me because you don't know me, but I freaking love Ella Fitzgerald.
Really?
And I feel like everyone's like, oh yeah, she's dreamy and vibey, but it's like, I love her.
Perfect pitch. I mean, come on, like that voice. And my daughter's name?
The pitch.
Ella Jane.
Stop. Okay, I had no idea.
Yeah. Ella Jane Fitzgerald, Ella Jane Bailey.
Now, have you always been like a smooth jazzy fan or?
Only Ella. Like
just
I
Ella.
Heard her voice with Louis Armstrong and I was like, okay, this is it. This is all I need. I listened to her like probably 60% of the time.
Oh my gosh, I love that. My team in this office will make fun of me all the time because I listen to her, I listen to Louis, I listen, Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra just all the time. I had a dog named Sinatra and that music just calms me. I don't know if it does the same for you.
Oh yeah.
But I find that being just a high performer, someone who talks to people all day, like I need that mellow music. And
she's beautiful, like all of it. No, totally relate to that.
It just stood out to me when I was on your website. I was like, okay, well, we're going to start with that because I just love that so much. Okay. Well, you are so interesting to me. You have a profession. I don't know any woman that does what you do. It's so unique. You are just, your accolades are just absolutely incredible. I'd love to start, like, how did you get into this sector? Take us back.
I lost my scholarship.
Wow.
And literally, like, people use Google now, but whatever it was before, like Ask Jeeves back in my day. Like, I'm a little bit older.
I haven't heard that in years. Oh my God, yes.
Like, which profession can you make the most money? It was finance. So I was like, okay, I'll teach myself about money, go to school for it. If I don't like it, I have it for my own personal life. If I don't like it, I'll just do something else and move on. And
how old were you at that time?
19, 20.
Wow, that's really young.
Well, and my father had received a kidney transplant and I was his primary caretaker. So I just couldn't do the school and the work and the caretaking. So I lost the scholarship and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to figure all of this out. And so I went into actually corporate finance. And then in school, learned about, P&L statements, balance sheets, and realized that was leading me to a place of cubicle work, which felt like death. Yeah. This will not work for me.
Yeah.
And my day job at that time was working at a hotel.
Hospitality, like front desk or like?
Oh yeah, front desk and group sales.
So, people person. Yeah.
And Hurricane Katrina was happening all while this was playing out. And I saw just the impact of being very personally connected to a human experience as part of your vocation. And I knew I was like, okay, I have to be with people.
Mm.
So then financial planning was sort of the next area to look into. And I started at the bottom. I joined a firm right out of college and definitely never thought I'd be a financial advisor. Like, who would take financial advice from me? I don't look like any of these 6'4" white men. Yeah. Giving the advice. So I started off in operations, learned it from the ground up, and eventually, realized that I wanted to be the one giving the advice. And so went through so much imposter syndrome work, like in tears, like I'm going to fail. There's no way I can do this. And it's actually with business owner clients that I realized I was like, okay, I can do this. Like I know the P&L, know the balance sheet. I've now run a business for someone. And, these people need advice and they need it in, especially an entrepreneur, they need it in their language, not in the analysis language of, let me tell you how the watch is made. Let me tell you all the reasons I love the watch. Let me tell you how awesome my watch is. Like, I just want to know what time it is. Like, what do I need to do? So that's sort of my path.
Okay. Well, and there's a lot, I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, even just with hospitality and group sales, and I know that because I was in the tourism industry for a while, and it's like, that's so polar opposite though of this path. It's so not linear of that. And so I'm just curious, just your personality, like what lights you up the most about it? Is it really the people and like the psychological piece to it and just like getting into people's minds and how they think and, things like that? Is it the helping piece, the support piece? Like, what is it? Because to someone like me, it's like, I would never. And it just feels like math, right? And that were you a numbers person? Was that always empowering to you or?
Nope.
Wow.
Hated math class.
Okay.
Probably shouldn't admit that. Right?
Right. But I mean, you look at what you've done, it's like you're endorsed here.
So I could see where you might think they, had nothing to do with each other. But in hospitality, you're taking care of your guests. Financial advising, you're taking care of your client and their family and all the decisions. So it's the caretaking. It's being able to use sort of my love of trying to figure things out. Like, give me a problem. Love to figure it out. And I'm just simply doing that for my client families and especially women. Like now that's become my passion is, women have had a really tough road in an inability to own assets, an inability to get our, credit in our name. This is the 50th anniversary of the year we were given the right to have a credit card in our name. 50
How
years.
is that possible?
And none of us know it. Every woman I tell that to, they're like,
mind blown.
Didn't know that. 50 years.
Wow. At what point in your career were you just like, did you know it was the woman piece that you were that really lit you up? Like, was it how old were you? What point in the career were you?
When did the Barbie movie come out?
Last year?
Right?
Yeah.
I was that years old.
Yeah.
I mean,
Amen.
I've been thinking about it. I've been contemplating. I've been doing the research to try to figure out, like, when I have a conversation with a woman business owner that is running a multi-million-dollar business, and we move into her personal financials, and she says, well, I don't know anything about money. I mean, it like makes my heart race even today thinking about it. Like, that is not true. You do. Why do you believe you do not? And even noticing behaviors in myself where I don't have the confidence. Like, I can confidently give someone else financial advice. But when I'm making my own decisions, why do I have this fear? Like, why am I panicking? And so I really started to research and dig into it and, learn about coverture laws.
What is that?
That is where a woman was covered under the legal identity of her husband. And it started, in England in, was it 1066? So
that adds up.
I mean,
yeah.
Forever ago. And then that in England migrated to the British colonies. And then it migrated out to each state. Each state handled it differently. So it was the 60s when we finally broke free of coverture law, 1960s. And then we got credit in our name in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And so I've been thinking about all these things, back to your original question. And I've been mulling over, what do I do about this? And it was like, I'm sitting in the Barbie movie. And I mean, everybody's having their own reaction, every woman in there.
It's religious, yeah.
I mean, I'm just sitting there like, oh, yeah. And then when all of the Kens, hope no spoiler alerts for anyone who hasn't.
I feel like if you're listening to the Renaissance podcast, you've seen the Barbie movie at least 3 times.
Okay. When all of the Kens are on the beach and they're fighting and they're angry and they missed the vote.
Yeah.
That was the message to me. Like, we are not going to get angry. I'm not going to share this message and educate women on coverture law for the point of like an uprising. I'm going to go to school for positive psychology. So fingers crossed, I'll find out if I'm accepted in the next few weeks.
Ooh, love that.
And come at it from a positive way, like, okay, how can women now come into the space of wealth management, which was created by men for men? Even the language is masculine. We're going to beat the market. Let's find alpha in this investment. Like, there is no space for women in money and wealth management. So, last year is when I realized it, like, fully.
So what does that work look like? I love that you're going back and you're getting that education, that knowledge so that you can speak eloquently and have that backing. Because I think I'm so about that. There's nothing more empowering than being able to be like, oh, here's that piece of paper. I'm so qualified to have this conversation and to own that space. But what does that work look like? What do you envision that you can do to open up these doors and to make these conversations more prevalent for women that their voices should be heard in this space?
There's so much I could say on that topic.
Sure.
But I think the most interesting part of it is I hope this work will really help me dig into the nuts and bolts of how people uncover their own strengths and their own desire for a positive life. So for women, we've had to say yes to many, many things that were not a true yes in order to have resources for generations and generations and generations. So what we spend money on, who we spend our time with, the decisions that we're making, are they really ours, coming from who we can confidently be if we don't have to fear not having income or not owning property? We're earning, I think, 88 cents on every dollar for men. We spend, I saw a study the other day, we spend $156,000 more in our lifetime on similar grooming products than men do.
Similar.
Similar. Like same basic stuff. If you add in, it's, I think, $300,000 on beauty products because those are added on. So yeah, it adds up to over $500,000 more than a man cumulatively over our lifetime. So we've got a long road ahead to figure out what to do.
Yeah, that's so interesting. We just hosted a conference last month for women entrepreneurs called the Renaissance Women Summit. And one of the biggest topics we were talking about is less than 2% of women, this, are getting funded. And what was it last year? It was like 1.7% or something.
The one I just saw was 2.5%. I think that was the 2022
Okay, so we're getting a little better now.
Yeah.
But dang.
I know.
Isn't that just absolutely incredible? And it's like, man, there's been so much positive work, and it's because of women like you that are, saying this is just wrong. We need to be more involved here. I mean, we're the consumer. Why aren't we getting taken seriously? So I love that. And going back to what you were saying about like the women that you service, I would love to hear about your clients and what you have unpacked from a psychological standpoint. Like, what are these deep-rooted issues that we have around money and about wealth and about, our finances, and how can we work on that? How can we not, do this to ourselves when we're having these conversations and be more like men, honestly.
Lots and lots of trauma therapy. No, and I mean, I'm
here for that. I'm here for all the therapy.
I was listening to a recent episode of yours where you're talking about trauma. I was like, I need
it's all nervous system healing that we all as women have to do. We all have our own version of trauma, whatever that started in middle school or, from childhood, whatever it is. It affects us in so many ways.
We are all walking around with our grandmother's experience, our mother's experience, and then our everyday. We were made to believe that we were not good at money in like every little nuanced way in math class. And I mean, there's just all of these moments in time. The fact that, our male brothers, cousins, whatever, they were having investment conversations among themselves with the male adults in our life, with their teachers. It was just a space that most little girls and young women were not invited into. So when you have that aspect and then you are a woman building a business, every time you go in and you talk to a bank or a lender, there's there's prejudice there. There's judgment there. I mean, the
just walking in the door, I feel like you're judged.
Yeah. I mean, even
Wild.
now, I pulled a Sex and the City episode where Miranda Hobbs is going in to get a loan to buy a condo. And she has to check the single unmarried box over and over and over again.
Funny. Yeah.
But it is still happening. We pay, on average, women do half a percentage point higher on the debt that we carry.
Wow. That should not be legal.
It's not.
It's
It's not. But
Okay.
you see, like
Yeah.
it is trauma.
Yeah.
And now it's almost like we need a secret weapon to go into our negotiations, to go in with us that will calm our nervous systems, because we have just so much of this non-specific anxiety about talking about money or dealing with money. So a lot of what I'm doing is calming clients, any way I can. Just like, here are the facts. This is truth. Your feelings are your reality, but this is the truth. And just helping them make wise decisions best we can.
I love it. Well, so I would love for you to share your story on men expensing golf.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear this. I was like, we got to talk about this. Okay, Teresa.
This was really, I'm just a curious person.
Yeah.
I just love to turn things around. One of my strengths is just, wanting to do things a different way, just for the sake of doing them a different way. So, the tax code, it was written by men. It was actually used a lot in the women's movement against us, which I didn't know. I'm sort of learning as I'm curious. And so I started to look at areas of the tax code where women still were not showing up. And it occurred to me that for so many years, expensing a golf membership and taking clients out on the golf course has been very generally accepted practice in business. And I was sitting actually in my hair salon, which is one of my favorite places to be. It just makes me feel absolutely wonderful. B Rose here in Nashville, they're awesome. And I'm sitting in there looking around, and there's all of these executive women who are coming in during their lunch break or on a Saturday or, just even during the business day. And we're, I'm looking around thinking, this is very much like a golf course, actually. If you think about what we're doing, we're coming in, it's very social. You're going through an activity. You're in a room, sitting there together. And you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone who networks around with many other people every day. Going to talk about business, but you're also going to talk about personal life. Some slides, you're maybe going to have a drink. Golf course, end of the round, you're going to have a drink. But you're making connections and you're talking about things. Why shouldn't my company cover me going to my salon? How is it any different than me going to play a round of golf? So I brought it back to my team, and I work with wonderful CPAs who used to do tax work, and they looked at me like I was a zebra. They were like, "You want us to pay for you to get your hair colored?" And I was like, just hear me out. And it turned into just this long-standing conversation within the firm. Women do not get to deduct expenses in the same way that men do.
This is now my favorite thing to talk about. Because I feel like every woman listening is like, hell yeah. I feel like my dry cleaning maybe that is expense. I don't know. But I feel like my dry cleaning, I feel like getting a blowout. I feel like, because guess what? I'm working while I'm getting a blowout. Nails, hair. It is for business. And you're so right. It's a networking experience. Yeah. I'm constantly networking with my hairdresser and everyone in there. We're all sitting there for 3 hours. I just couldn't agree with that more. And the fact that, yeah, from a golf standpoint, that is such an expense thing. That's put on the business. But it's it's the same thing. Why is there this bias? Why aren't we looked at the same way in that area? That's wild.
Yeah, just old tax code. And someone is going to have to reform it. And we know how long and how arduous that is. But I think there are places, but it's so specific. You can deduct the time that a makeup artist uses to apply the makeup, but the makeup has to be only makeup that's allowed for media. It's so ridiculously specific that, any CPA listing who wants to help me figure this out, please reach out.
I'm going to literally reach out to mine because I actually think that I put most of my stuff on my business card for my because it's, and I don't even know how my accountant deals with it, but it's all because, I'm on a show. I get my makeup done. I get my hair, we got to figure that out. Because it's like, you want to think about how Oprah does it. You know, it's her business. And, her hair is her business, her makeup, her look, her outfits, all of it, her wardrobe. But it's like, if you're an entrepreneur, all of that, it is an investment for how you're doing business and how you show up for yourself and your confidence and all of that. And a man would never get argued with that. You know what I mean?
No, because it was a business, business expense.
Yeah.
And maybe those in the music industry and media industry have it figured out.
Maybe.
But it has not trickled down into
business and
small business owner women who, my goodness, need the deductions.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. Well, I'm curious to know, because as I said when we started, I don't know anyone that does what you do. So tell me about the inside of your business. What are the services? What does it look like to work with you? Who are the clients that you're servicing? Give me the whole spiel.
So I love to work with very driven individuals, so executives, entrepreneurs. I also have, a spot where, divorce, things like anything that's kind of messy. Jokingly, people inside the firm refer to me as Mary Poppins. I like to come in and the financial Mary Poppins, clean everything up. Yeah. So it's not all executives and entrepreneurs, but majority. And it's because I love working with people who, they can figure it out on their own. They can get in and do everything, but they truly value, the highest and best use of their time. And if their business is not finances, it's, marketing, then, I want to be able to take all of that anxiety and all of those decisions off of them, come up with what I think works best. And the way that we do that is really going through everything somebody owns, everything someone owes. The business is a big part typically of the balance sheet. And then, the thing that I do that I think is a bit more interesting, I spend a lot of time talking to people and getting them to talk to me about what they really want. Okay, you are working your butt off. Why? And that's usually the first year is a little bit uncomfortable for some because they're not used to being vulnerable with a financial advisor. And I'm well, wait, I don't, if you're miserable, what is this all for? And so really working through, you own this, a house, for example. And if they constantly talk bad about this property, then I'm okay, why? Why this house? Why do you want this one? And so we go through each asset. Why do you have this stock portfolio if you can't sleep at night when it goes down? Let's own something different. And then once we have assets sort of figured out, making sure that those are aligned or there's a plan for, their assets to match who they are, then it's just long-term, kind of boring. How much income are you making? Can we optimize how much tax you're paying? How do we really grow a balance sheet that affords you the life that you want, at a certain point when you maybe don't want to work as hard or you don't want to work at all. And so it's a lot of calculations, but for me, it always comes back to why are we doing this? And what do you want to do with your life? Waking up and just going to work or making the widget because you can make the widget. That's not usually where we.
So that's a common thing where people don't really have their why defined with some of your. That's so interesting because you work with very successful people. So it's dang, you have this money, this life, this lifestyle, but why are you doing that?
Yeah, and a lot of individuals who have amassed wealth have done it from a place of trauma. Where, a lot of, I don't know if you see this, a lot of entrepreneur stories begin with, well, I had this messed up childhood.
I know. That's such a narrative of this show.
Had this messed up childhood. So to relieve myself of it, I put all my energy on this other thing. And then this other thing becomes wildly successful.
Yeah.
But the pain is still there. The trauma is still there. And so, one of the wonderful things about the entrepreneur community, especially here in Nashville, it's just lovely.
Electric.
Yeah. There's so much resource sharing. So typically there's a point in many entrepreneurs, business cycle, life cycle, where they hit a point of personal growth. And it's always cool when I get to be there right when it's about to happen or it's already happened, where they're like, oh, help me, enjoy my money more. Like, what am I doing? What do I want to do with it? That's like the magic part where I'm like, oh, I'm your gal.
Well, what does that look like? I'm so curious because I love to hear this about you, that it goes so much more beyond the financial side of it. It's so much more like the heart work that you do. And you light up when you talk about it. So I would love to hear, like, when you are rolling your sleeves up, like what does that look like digging in?
It's really a process of discovery, which is why I want to get a psychology degree.
So smart.
Yeah, like I was taught a lot of numerical formulas, but how to really ask the right questions for someone to have their own discovery moment. I can have a judgment like, I think you're in the wrong field, but that's not where the magic happens. It's getting someone to go, oh, yeah, maybe I do have enough money to take a year off and just go be with myself and figure out what I want to do, and so a lot of it is conversation. A lot of it is me taking my own experience and just informing the conversation. Like if I am working with a woman and she's very overwhelmed, I might suggest she take a solo vacation, which freaks a lot of women out, freaked me out. And I'm certainly not a therapist and I'm, not a life coach. I may kind of act like one every once in a while, but I do not have a degree in it. But really, it's a lot of conversation and suggestions and having people go back into their home life and then come back. And we're always talking about the financial aspect of it, but it's just the addition of really being curious about somebody and caring enough to bring some things to their attention that they might want to think about.
It's interesting. I feel like you're like the third person this week I've had a conversation about like the magic in a pause and the magic in a like sabbatical, the magic in taking that time away to really rediscover or discover what you need and who you are. And I love that. That sounds like you've done that.
Oh yeah. My 40th birthday, I took myself on a solo trip. Like everybody typically does the big party or the big...
Yeah. The big 4-0, like girls trip or whatever.
Oh,
yeah.
And nothing felt right. Like I planned in my head like 5 different parties and nothing felt right. And then I read an article on a solo trip and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to overcome. I mean, I left the country. Like I want to overcome all my security fears and just go do it. And it was a roller coaster emotionally. Like if you're on like day 2 and you're not having fun and you're not happy, whose fault is that? Who can you blame that on? It's
That's
all
humbling.
You. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, okay. What do I need to do?
What did you like? Were you journaling through that? I was going to say, I feel like you would have to just to like get those emotions somewhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I write every morning. So for me, it was basically like a journaling adventure.
I need to hear about your morning routine. I'm fascinated by successful people's morning routines because I just think it sets the tone for your day. And the most high achievers, people on this show that are just the most successful people, all have some sort of process in the morning, whether it's a meditation or a workout or just some time to just brain dump into the morning pages. I would love to hear what you do. And if you have any other like routine that you weave into your day to just like, because it's a lot doing what you do and managing a team and your clients and all of it. And so you just have to have that time. So I'd love to hear what you do.
Yeah, I would say that you're right. The morning routine changed everything. I used to be one that would come home exhausted, sit in front of the TV, fall asleep on the couch, wake up at 2 a.m., I just wasn't getting real rest. Oh. And so I read the Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod.
Yeah.
And, I'm one who I like to modify everything, customize. I don't really go with everyone else's rules. So I kind of made up my own.
Well, you're an entrepreneur. Makes sense. Yeah.
So my routine really is up, grab coffee, and immediately get on my laptop. And, I read The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron. So this is about rediscovering the creative in you. And it for her method is it has to be pen, it has to be paper, you have to write it. For me, I can't write fast enough now because I type just so much faster.
Same.
So, Julia, if you're listening,
sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. And for me, it depends on the day. Sometimes I want to write creatively because I'm feeling stuck. A lot of times it's just processing, it's journaling. Like this is going on, I can't really figure out. And I have a lot of light bulbs and I do carry it back into my work because there's a lot of conversation in my head about why I'm seeing certain behaviors in a couple that can't maybe make a decision. Because I'm working with really intelligent people who kind of do occasionally some dumb stuff with their money. And from an outsider, you're like, why is this happening?
Right.
And then when I give myself enough space to really think it through, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I see this variable over here that I hadn't thought about before. They're freaked out. Like,
Yeah.
let me.
So giving yourself that space to think. It's almost like having thinking time woven into your day, which I think is smart because we're also go, 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 go. But we're performing, but how do we have the time to like problem solve, right? And I feel like we get so used to just on the spot doing it, right? Because that's part of it. But I love that you have that time where you just like dump it down.
Yeah, it's like active meditation, I think.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I meditate, right? Like, I mean,
Me
but
neither.
the thoughts come in and you're supposed to like send them away. Well, they're coming in and I'm writing them down and then they go away. So that's
Yes, Teresa.
that's my
We're the same.
meditating.
We're so similar. Like, oh my gosh, I love that. Well, walk me through a day in your life because I am just so curious. I'm sure it's different every single day, but I would love to know, like, if there was a somewhat average day, what that would look like.
Oh my gosh, it probably looks like a combination. I don't even know. Like half of my life is the Gilmore Girls because I
Okay.
have a 12-year-old daughter.
Okay, I love that.
Single mom, 12-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And we really are like the Gilmore Girls.
So cute.
Which is hilarious because I love the show. And it's come back in. Like all of her girlfriends are watching it. And they'll comment. They're like, y'all are like the Gilmore Girls. My daughter will
Well, you
say,
kind of look like Lorelai. That actually kind of makes sense now. I love that.
my daughter hates the show.
How?
And I think it's because so many people over the years have mentioned it.
compared and said.
She won't watch one episode.
Okay, but don't you feel like that'll change? Don't you feel like she'll go off to college and she'll be feeling nostalgic
she
and
misses
she'll be
me.
like,
Maybe.
all right, now I love it.
Maybe.
It's really sweet.
But so morning time is very much that Gilmore Girl vibe of running around. Where's the thing? And, very quick-witted back and forth. Like,
Banter, yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
And then
Coffee. Are you a coffee person?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, then that tracks.
But unfortunately, I have had to wean myself down to
Oh.
like one half calf and the rest deep. I know. It's like
This is
I'm
probably 5 for me. It's not good. It's not good. It's going to come up. It's going to get me.
I have burnt all the things out. And so I went to a functional medicine doctor and she was like,
We have to stop.
Yeah.
Okay. I might need to get her info from you because I probably got something going on here.
so I do the coffee. I really enjoy now lifting weights.
Okay.
Just to kind of like,
Yeah, you look
have a goal.
amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank
And
you.
women are so afraid of lifting weights. So that's really like, you look so good. And I feel like that's like women need to stop being afraid of the weightlifting.
Well, I think we were told so many different things, like run your heart out and, and we are in high anxiety mode most of the time, trying to multitask and take care of all the things.
Being
that
mom and
running is, to me, I was like, whoa, no, that's too much stress. Can't do that.
yes.
So weightlifting is like still keeping active, but like in a kind of calmer state. And then I really move into, I've done my journaling, my quiet time at that point, got my daughter off to school, get ready, do all the things. And then from the time I hop in the car, I'm probably on the phone with the client already, catching up on morning emails. Because business owners, I'm getting nighttime emails, morning emails coming in, trying to make decisions. So I hop on the phone. And then I am communicating typically from like 7:30 to 6 at night, just problem solving.
Man, it's I always tell my team, I'm like, it's an interesting world to work at a small business and service small business owners, which is what we do, all day. And they're entrepreneurs. So sometimes we don't work directly with the business owner, but more often than not, we do. And we hear from them and they don't turn it off. And similarly to you, I relate to them because I'm the same way about my business. And it's, sometimes a challenge to educate your team on that. It's like, gosh, it's just, they don't turn it off because it's their whole existence,
Yes.
and they love, and then with what you do, the money piece, whole other thing,
It's the only time they have to think about money is on the weekends and at nights or,
because they're running their business.
Yeah. If you're a woman, when you're drying your hair, like that's the quiet time. You're like, the thoughts come in. You're like, oh, I need to do that. So, we, especially for my support team, I let them know, like I will send messages, all times of day. I am not expecting you to respond to them. And thankfully, my clients give me the same leeway
boundary.
Back. Like they're going to send when they can send, and they know I will respond when I can respond. So
they have that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, do you have any advice for that? Like someone listening that's in client services or customer service of like, how does it just come naturally for you in the relationship that you have with your client to be able to set that boundary? Or do you have advice for someone in the space to do that?
Interesting question. So boundaries, something I've had to learn over time. I would not say that was a core competency, but I am unafraid to have a direct conversation. So I don't know if you are into astrology, but
yes.
Aries rising. Like
that makes sense. That makes
I'm all about it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So for me, I'm not afraid to say, hey, if they were to say, why didn't you respond to me? And it was like a 7 p.m. text, and it was the next morning. It's like, I'm at home with my daughter. I'm not always available, so just know that I've received it and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I've really never had anybody say, well, I expect you to respond anyway.
Was that something you had to like with the mom thing with saying, hey, I have this time with my daughter? Was that ever something that you struggled with saying? I know I had a baby almost 2 years ago, and I've struggled with like saying it and I think that's my own deep work I need to do. Like, why would I be insecure about, and this is only, my husband never has this issue. He's like, I'm with my son, but I struggle with being like, I'm having son time, I'm with mother time, because I feel like it makes me look weaker. And I know that's such a me problem, but like.
That is not a you problem. That's a we problem. That is all of us.
All of us.
All of us. Like, God. I want to talk about hormones too. Why are we all walking around the workplace not talking about the fact that we're like 4 different women in one, and you were going to have a different conversation with, no, we don't have multiple personalities. We're simply just,
being.
The creatures that create life. And this is, a result of it. So,
Amen.
It is not
shame
a you
around
problem.
that.
Yeah. It's not a you problem. We're all dealing with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild, but that's refreshing to know. And it sounds like you being 12 years in that you're able to say that to your clients. And I respect that so much. I just love that. And I'm like, we're going to get there.
I am better at what I do because I'm a mother.
Amen.
Hands down. Like patience was, I feel like, unknown to me before I had a toddler. Like you're in the 2s. The 3s, they're even more fun. Get ready.
Be near Teresa. It's so, but you're so right. I mean, it's been such a journey mentally of me. And now I just feel like I'm kinder. I'm more compassionate, but it's wild because I'm so much more tired. I don't know how but I am, because I'm just like this little person I love more than anything in the world. And so of course I'm like, I have all the patience, but it is hard. But that's good to know. And that's why I love servicing women. And I understand why you do too, because we just have that thing or that empathy piece. So mom power is the best.
It is.
What is your favorite thing about what you do?
Oh, God, so many things.
Like what sparked your joy the most?
Okay, this may not be the most, but it's the one I'm going to pick. When I can see and look back on like a transformation for a client. Like I had one woman come into the office yesterday, and she went through a terrible divorce. I mean,
ugly.
Like cameras, really narcissistic abuse situation. And when we first came together, probably 4 years ago, she was just a completely different person than the one that I interacted with yesterday. And being a part of helping her connect to the resources that she needed in all of those moments to keep moving forward and get through that, knowing what a huge impact that has, just connecting someone to a resource. Like, I'm not providing the therapy. I'm not helping sell the house. Like, there's so many people that get involved, but being able to connect someone with life-changing resources is just a really cool thing to do. Like, my I got a guy, got a gal Rolodex in my head, like, that's one of my most precious business assets.
That is so cool. I love that so much. It's just the service, just the heart of the service, and just being able to change and transform lives and see that impact. It's like absolutely incredible. And that is why you're so successful, because you lead with that,
Yeah.
It's beyond it. So, okay. Well, so a couple just like last questions. So we have a lot of female business owners listening to this show. So how, like, when it comes to successful finances, what can we be doing right now? Like, whether I feel like a lot of the women that listen to our show are probably within 5 years of starting their business, somewhere around that. Just would love to know from you some tips.
I think the most basic tip I have for women really in any phase of life, but especially women business owners, is, understand your financials. Really look at them. For some reason, women business owners, it's easy to look at the P&L and like mess with those numbers. But your personal financials, like, really look at them. Set up a time once or twice a month for your like financial self-care time. Don't go into it with like anxious, like, oh, I have to see if I'm spending too much, or, oh, I have to rein it in. Like, truly, like, the same energy you have when you have like a cup of tea and you're just relaxing at the end of the day, bring that kind of energy into your financial review. But what I find is like a lot of women are just completely freaked out at looking at their full financial picture. So really finding a time, creating a routine, making space for yourself, viewing your money as something that adds to your life, not a stress where you don't have enough. So I guess abundance theory.
Abundance theory. I love that. I love that so much. And that's such a good tip, is don't go at it when you're in your most chaotic state.
Yes.
Nothing good is going to come from that when you've just, got into a fight with your husband or had a bad day at work, or it's not the time.
Correct.
Do it when you're in your more kind of peace-centered, because there is a lot of anxiety around money, and there's a lot of that, societal pressure. And then, of course, social media doesn't help anyone. I own an agency in social media, and it's just the worst thing ever for people struggling from like a mental health perspective, and then just comparing. I feel like, especially as young women and even in the entrepreneurship space, looking and comparing, oh my gosh, her business must be killing it. She's in Italy right now. She's doing this, but you just have to stay in your lane, right?
Yeah. And really look at what you have and, figure out how your money, your resources, how you can pull them into your life and create a spending plan, something that feels good. Budget, you don't have to think of it as something restrictive. Like, everyone loves to plan to spend their money. So if you have this much money coming in, how are you going to allocate it? And, as far as keeping up with, we're just held to such beauty standards. There's so much that we can get distracted by. But anytime you can kind of bring it in and take care of yourself, you're going to have a much better result than, the stress of, oh, how am I going to get to Italy? How am I going to, buy a new car? Just being with the money that you have and having gratitude for it, and then looking for opportunities to increase your balance sheet, increase your income.
I saw a quote the other day. This is kind of random, but I'm just curious your opinion of it. And it said it was from a very successful male entrepreneur. I can't remember who it was. He had a ton of followers. And he said, it's interesting how the most successful entrepreneurs and people that I know rent their houses. Do you have an opinion on that?
I rent my house.
I'm so glad I asked you that question. I just am so curious to know advice on that, because I think I feel like it was our grandparents, our parents are always own. And we have that just deep ingrained. But I do feel like there's been a shift. Is that true?
Oh yeah, no, that's a total soapbox for me that I say it all the time. Like, you do not have to own this. You are not throwing money away. Yeah, it's
we gotta fix that in our brains, because I feel like there's so much shame around, I rent my apartment, I rent my house, and there's judgment. Why? Like, to each their own.
We're told you're throwing money away. You're throwing money away if you're just renting. I have like one of the best landlords. He was in real estate as his vocation. There's a little apartment above the garage. He and his wife come into town every once in a while, stay above the garage because they love Nashville. And he does all the yard work. He renovates parts of the house the whole time. He's doing all of the management and upkeep. I have no energy to maintain a house. I'm a single mom. I love my business. Like, I don't want to be stressed out about the roof. Like, like I am paying for the privilege to have someone else deal with that. And I also am paying to have financial certainty. There's nothing like a $25,000 roof bill to completely throw you off in your financial plan. So if you can take the same capital, put it to work in another asset, whether that's a small business or maybe rental real estate or, the stock market, there are so many ways to make money. It does not have to be in building equity in the house that you live in. Like, that needs to be unwritten.
Dang, that's the soundbite right there. That's awesome. That's so interesting. I feel like too with just Nashville and everyone talking about the market and just how impossible it is to move and everyone feels stuck. And it's like, you don't even have to be in that conversation at all.
No.
Which is so freeing and empowering and just, so smart, because you're going to pay it towards something at some point. So I think that's brilliant. And yeah, it's all about allocating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good advice. I'm so glad I asked you that question. I was like teetering on asking you for some reason. Okay. Well, final question, Teresa. Well, final two questions. First one is, we always ask our guests, what is your definition of a Renaissance woman?
So I would say that for me, a Renaissance woman, because Renaissance, many, many different interests. For me, it's a woman who has the strength and confidence to know what interests her, and she is willing to unapologetically go after that in her life.
Oof, that's so good. That's beautiful. I love that. Unapologetically. We don't have to, we don't owe anyone anything. Right?
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yep.
That's good. Okay. Well, where can everyone find you? Where can we get in touch? Where can we learn more about what you do, work with you, all the things?
LinkedIn would be the best for me. So it's at Teresa J.W. Bailey or / I guess, for LinkedIn. And then, I'm on Instagram, but it's really just pictures of me and my kid.
Love it.
All of our fun adventures.
All the fun Gilmore Girl adventures in Nashville.
Yes.
I love that so much.
Yes.
Well, Teresa, you are incredible. Thank you for what you do and what you stand for and who you are. I just think that it's we need more women like you in the world. And I love that you're a mom and your daughter is she's set up right now, whether she knows it or not. I'm sure she does.
Thank you.
So thank you for coming on the show. And until next time, we'll see you guys next week.